Your other two teams will be less than 80 wins for sure because they both stink and they play in a division with three juggernauts that they're going up against all the time. So the Reds and the Brewers are both. Just pick whichever one of them you want for fourth and whichever one of them you want for fifth. It doesn't matter. They're both going to be terrible and have no seasons, or no competitiveness in their seasons at all. Like we're talking like 73 win type of seasons for both Brewers and Reds. Then let's go to the East now, okay? And we've got the Mets, who won that division last year, stealing it from the Nationals, who, well, they didn't steal it from the Nationals. The Nationals just vomited that division title all over themselves. And then the Mets came in and politely cleaned it up off their shoes for them. So it was really nice of the New York Mets. The Mets issues are always the same thing when they're good. Okay, there's only two kinds of Mets teams. The Mets teams that are garbage and everybody knows it from day one, and the Mets teams that have a lot of high expectations and ultimately never quite exceed or meet them, with the exception of Mr. Strawberry and Mr. Gooden and that whole crew back in the 80s. But they kept Batman, Superman, whatever the heck he is, Matt Harvey, pitching for him. Wasn't sure if they were going to be able to make him stick around or not. They have a decent rotation. They've got quite a bit of talent in their lineup and out in the field. And I see no reason for the Mets not to be at least the favorite to repeat as winner of their division. Now, that being said, I think that last year I might have been just 1 year off on the Marlins, and most of it was because of Juan Carlos Stanton's injury anyway, because I picked them to be a wild card team and make the playoffs last year. I'm picking them to contend for their division this year, but like I said, knowing how good the Central is and that both wild cards are almost certainly going to come out of the Central, if you're in the East or if you're in the West in the National League, you got to win your division or you ain't getting in the playoffs. That's got to be your mentality throughout this season. So I will give the Marlins a chance to make it into the playoffs by winning their division over the Mets. But ultimately, I think the Mets are just they're a little safer bet, and they'll end up with just a few more wins. So I've got the Mets around 85 wins. I've got the Marlins between 80 to 85 wins. In third place, I have the Washington Nationals. They've got names on a pitching staff that makes just about every baseball fanboy giddy when it comes to fantasy baseball time. They've got the MVP, who is, he's the National League's Mike Trout, is what he is. He's Bryce Harper, and he is all world in his superstar abilities on a baseball field. So that the Nationals, again, are a team with that potential. They have multiple ingredients for success. That being said, just like other teams we've talked about, they have multiple elements for disaster and self-combustion as well. They fired their manager from last year, Matt Williams, so it is possible that was the main issue, and now this team will live up to its talent and its payroll and expectations from a year ago this year. So very possible that the Nationals could contend for their, for the Eastern Division title as well. However, I think they're a good, this is a turnaround year, kind of like the Twins had last year for the Nationals, and then the following year should be the playoff, back to competitive games that matter. So I got the Nationals hovering right around 80 games this year, maybe flirting with 85. And then definitely in fourth place will be the Braves, and without a doubt in fifth and last place in the East, one of the worst teams in baseball by far, the Philadelphia Phillies. They stink. So have fun, Philadelphia fans. Yeah, such a friendly fan base in Philly, though. Man, what is it? Do I have like alliteration-itis tonight or something? Holy flying guacamole. But then we end in the National League West. Let's wrap this up, huh? That's what she said. And in first place, it's an even-numbered year, so you should know who's going to be in first place, who the best team in the National League West is going to be. That's the San Francisco Giants. They've won the World Series every even-numbered year for, this, since we've been into this decade. since we've been in 2010, 2012, 2014, 2016. So, I don't know. History, odds tell us that the San Francisco Baseball Giants are a pretty good bet this year. That's not to say it's for sure, but it's a good, smart bet. There's no denying that. With the things that they have done to their pitching staff, and now having Posey and their other young daily players healthy again once again, I mean, their starting pitching rotation: Baumgartner, Kane, Johnny Cueto, I want to say, that's where he went. Jake Peavy, it's ridiculous. Their starting pitching staff is ridiculous, and everybody says you win with pitching in Major League Baseball. So if you subscribe to that theory, the San Francisco Giants have to be one of your favorite teams in Major League Baseball this year. I have them followed in second place by the LA Dodgers. I think the Dodgers will get between 80 and 85 wins, probably right around 85 wins, and they will be flirting with both their division and that other wild card spot. Behind them, then, it's really kind of just I think that's a two-team race, if you can even call it a race in that division. Personally, I think it's the Giants division, and the Dodgers are the only ones that are going to make they're all going to make an effort, but they're the only ones that are going to be within reasonable, realistic striking distance at any point in time. I have the Padres finishing in third place. They were a disappointment last year, had higher expectations for them. I got the douchebags, the Diamondbacks in fourth, and the Rockies stinking it up in the cellar of the West. I think all three of those teams, Padres, D-bags, and Rockies, win 80 or less games this year. So that would have our playoff teams being the Mets out of the East, the Giants out of the West, and then the Cubs out of the Central, with the wild card teams being the Pirates and the Cardinals. Fast forwarding along to the NLCS, my matchup features the Giants, of course, versus, you think I'm going to say the Cubs. No, versus the Cardinals. Because how can you ever bet against the Cardinals? They're in it almost every year. They have no weaknesses. They're ridiculously good on a consistent basis. And they've also got a little bit of a streak where every 5 years they win the title. And, well, guess what? It's their fifth year now. So somebody's streak is going to have to give. The Cardinals winning a title every 5 years, or the Giants winning the title every other year when it's an even-numbered year. Well, so I have those two facing off for that in the NLCS, and I have the Giants winning and moving on to the World Series. So, if you remember then from before, that would have the Blue Jays versus the Giants is my World Series prediction. Lock it in right now. Call up your bookie, and I'm telling you, I believe I'm 100% right all the time. 60% of the time it works every time, but I don't know that I've ever felt more confident about baseball World Series predictions in my life going into a season than I do this year. Blue Jays are the AL team. San Francisco Giants, they're the NL team. So before I tell you who I have winning it all, which you're on to, but before I tell you that, let's finish out our National League talk on their MVP candidates and their Cy Young candidates. Now, I think the Cy Young candidates in the NL is definitely better and more interesting than in the AL. And the names in the MVP one are pretty crazy too. But let's start with the Cy Young candidates for the National League. Of course, you've got Clayton. Don't call me Sammy Kershaw. Is always going to be in the discussion for this award. He is Michelangelo, Da Vinci out there on the mount. He's as good as it gets. It's like if LeBron James was in the NBA and wasn't on a playoff team, you know he'd still get some MVP votes because he's just that good. Same way with Kershaw when it comes to pitching. So, of course, you got to have Kershaw. You got to have Jake Arrieta from the Cubs on there. You got to have Harvey from the Mets on there. Cueto, Peavy, Bumgarner, and Kane from the Giants. And then Scherzer, Max Scherzer, not Strasburg, but Max Scherzer from the Nationals. Those would be my 2, 4, 6, 8 favorites. And I think all of the Giants pitchers are going to kind of, take away from each other. So let's go with Arrieta, the clear ace on the Cubs, who are going to win a solid 90-plus games and be in the playoffs. And yeah, that's a smart pick, I think. Now let's look at the MVP candidates. And I love the names that I wrote down for National League MVP candidates. Not more than one from a single team, and they're all young, super talented superstars. I got 6 names here. We got defending champ Bryce Harper. Hard to pick against him. Again, he's almost like a Kershaw where it's his award, until proven otherwise. Yasiel Puig from the Dodgers, a dark horse. I'm not huge on him, but he's got the potential to put up some really gaudy offensive hitting numbers. McCutchen from the Pirates. This guy's he has no weaknesses. He's the definition of an all-star. Love him on a good team. Buster Posey, your everyday workhorse all-star for a 90-plus win. World Series favorite. Chris Bryant, second-year man, coming off Rookie of the Year, going to be the best day-to-day player on the team, the Cubs, which should be have the best record. So he's got to be a candidate. And then finally, my man who got hurt last year that is he's lights out when he's not battling injuries. This guy's just got the worst luck, it seems like. But Giancarlo Stanton of the Miami Marlins. This guy's as talented of a baseball player as you'll ever see. And if he can play 140 or more games this year, being healthy, he'll definitely be in the running for MVP with MVP numbers. So who do we pick here? Well, we can't have both the MVP and the Cy Young coming from the same team. And we got Cy coming from the Cubs. So that means Chris Bryant, sorry, you're not going from Rookie of the Year to MVP. At least not in my predictions. You might in real life, that'd be pretty sweet, and we will be pulling for you. But to balance things out here, we're actually going to go with, I can't believe I'm doing this. Am I really doing this? Yes, I am really doing this. This is a way of giving out a second Cy Young even. The National League MVP is going to go to a catcher, and it's going to Buster Posey. Because he is not only going to get credit as being like the best bat and the best day-to-day player on that team, but he's also going to get credit for all of the pitching success that they have there with Cueto and Peavy and Bumgarner and Kane. So, boom, there you go. A catcher winning a rare MVP award this year is my prediction in the National League. That being Giants Buster Posey. Wow, so again, all right. My MVPs for American League are Mike Trout, National League Buster Posey, Cy Young in National League is Jake Arrieta from the Cubs, and Cy Young in American League is R.A. Dickey. Dickey, can't you see? From the Toronto Blue Jays. Yeah, I like that. We're going to do that. Every time we're talking about R.A. Dickey from now on throughout the baseball season, he's going to have his own little theme song for like 5 seconds. It's going to be, Dickey, can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me. And I'll probably change the lyrics to that. I'll come up with like a, why does your ball? I don't know. We'll work on it. But anyway, one final prediction to get to here. The granddaddy of them. They're the big one. The whopper of them all. And then we'll be done with Balls on Fire. We'll put out Balls on Fire and get to our next topic here. And it only took us an hour. Yeah, woohoo. We're way on pace. All right. So, like I said, the World Series, we're going to have the Blue Jays taking on the Giants. And the Giants have their streak. It's an even-numbered year. Every other year, they win the World Series. They beat the Cardinals in the NLCS to get here, in my predictions. And so that being said, they should be the pick over the Blue Jays. Hold the phone. Slow down your roll, sister. I am picking the Toronto Blue Jays to be victorious over the San Francisco Giants in this year's World Series. Boom!